at a later date at 6 months and so forth to see if they were still allergic to the formula. And what they found was that a lot of these babies got better. Then if they went back and re-challenged them, a lot of the babies had reactions to milk, and a lot of the babies had reactions to both milk and soy. So the conclusion that these investigators made is that some babies with cow milk protein, or some babies with infantile colic, are actually cow milk protein allergic. And that's a subset of infantile colic that before we didn't realize that this could be a problem related to milk allergy. The symptoms that the kids got when they were re-challenged with cow milk at 6 and 12 months of age were a little bit different. A lot of times they got other gastrointestinal symptoms such as vomiting and diarrhea, rash, and so forth. And a fair number of them also developed allergies to other foods by that time. So this was kind of an interesting observation because it was new and novel at that time, and I kind of refocused some of our thinking about cow milk protein allergy. And it also, this is the paper from which the statements of, you'll see on some of these extensively hydrolyzed formulas, they'll put on the can, relieves infantile colic, quote, when due to cow milk protein allergy. That was all derived from this paper. So then back in 1989, with a different extensively hydrolyzed formula, the same group of investigators did another study where they took the extensively hydrolyzed formula, and the extensively hydrolyzed formula spiked with some intact whey protein in it, so that it was actually, the smell of the formula and everything was the same. And in fact, when the babies had the whey in their formula, they developed more symptoms of crying, quote, gas formation, vomiting, and so forth. You can see how the data split out here. So reinforcing the fact that fussiness and irritability can be caused by cow milk protein. So what about breastfed babies? Interestingly enough, a lactating mother can actually pick up fragments of intact protein from the gut, engulf it, transport it to the mammary gland, and excrete it into the breast milk as an intact protein. Now, I was shocked when I learned this because I thought it doesn't make sense. Protein's supposed to be completely digested to dipeptides and monosaccharides and transported and then reassembled. But when a mother is lactating and when a mother is pregnant, this other system of protein absorption kicks in. Why does she do this? So I think the reason she does this is because the baby's gut needs to sample very, very small quantities of antigens in order to develop immune tolerance. And if you have that opportunity, the baby then can learn that this is a harmless antigen and I'm not supposed to react to it. The immune system learns to make that decision. And if you don't have exposure to that protein, the baby has no way of being able to develop that tolerance. So then you ask me, okay, well, why then do not all babies have cow milk protein allergy if they're getting formula from day one? And the answer to that is, same thing happens in the amniotic fluid. These proteins are getting into the amniotic fluid and the baby's swallowing them in utero. So having said that, there are some babies who will develop allergic reactions to these dietary proteins. And these babies can also exhibit the same kind of quote, colicky symptoms. And sometimes by taking them out of the mom's diet, you can make them better. And this was the only paper I could find where David Hill did this little study showing that if you put the moms on a hypoallergenic diet, the baby, in fact, did have a reduction in its symptoms. And I think we all, as pediatricians, we do that. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So Jeff told me I was supposed to show pictures and talk about pictures and walk around because that was, am I doing, I'm trying to do that. No, okay. So this is a picture of a duodenum endoscopically of a baby with cow milk protein allergy. And you can see all these, these big lymphoid nodules here that some of them have a little inflammation over them and whatever. And I've begun to learn that endoscopically when I see this usually means an allergic baby. And there's surprisingly few pediatric gastroenterologists actually recognize this. But this is something that I've learned more and more to look for when I do endoscopy. But the reason I'm showing you this picture, if you think about it, a baby that has a small bowel that looks like that, whenever he drinks something or eats something and it gets into the small bowel, that's going to cause pain. And if you don't believe me, think about what happens when you get inflammation in your small intestine if you get norovirus and you try to eat, and it hurts. It gives bad, crampy abdominal pain. Same thing happens with celiacs. They quit eating because they get pain from the inflammation up in that part of the small bowel. Kids with Crohn's disease. Inflammation in the gut causes pain and discomfort and makes people not eat. And that's what happens with these milk allergic babies, and that's why you see these kinds of symptoms. And there's just, this is actually a colon, but it shows the same kind of inflammatory changes in a breastfed baby that has cow milk protein allergy. So you can even in the baby that has, in getting these proteins in through the breast, can do the same doggone thing. So then how do you as a clinician tell which you have, a normal healthy baby who cries too much or a cow milk protein allergic baby? So I made this little picture, and I think when I go through talking to the parents, I look for these things. Are the baby's stools normal or abnormal? And abnormal can mean too hard, constipated, or very loose, or even blood. That will point you, abnormal stools, more to the allergy side. Poor weight gain. A colicky babies go fine. A baby with cow milk protein allergy, because the small bowel looks like that, they didn't grow so well. Feeds poorly, the allergic baby. Because they start to eat, they get discomfort and they quit. And then after a few minutes, they'll want more because they feel hungry and they're getting these cramps and they can't tell, and then they try it again and it makes the pain hurt and they push away. And you see that kind of a poor feeding pattern in the allergic baby. Cries after eating, more commonly with a cow milk protein baby. Cries at night, more commonly with a colicky baby. Spits up a lot, allergic baby. The baby spits up a lot, and not because he has gastroesophageal reflux, but because his stomach doesn't empty very well. So the gastric volume builds up, the pressure in the stomach builds up, and when that valve relaxes, it comes up. It's the same thing, it's a different mechanism, but it looks like gastroesophageal reflux, and this is another reason why people think the PPIs will help. And the other one is distractible. If you have a colicky baby, and the pediatricians will say, well, if you take the baby and rock it like this and kind of make so it sounds like uterine blood flow, and soothes the baby, they'll quit crying. Another one, if you have a washing machine, you put the baby in an infant seat and set him on top of the washing machine, and they go like this. And the baby, he's happy because he's totally distracted, Or you take the baby in a car, and usually this happens in the U.S. when, oh my God, there's something wrong with my baby. Let's take him to the emergency room. So put him in the car and he gets in the infant seat, yeah, he's fine, A milk protein intolerant baby doesn't do that because he hurts. He may do it a little bit, but that damn washing machine didn't make this pain stop, and I'm still going to cry because it hurts. So that if you kind of go through this with the parents, you can figure this out. And so what I always say, if the baby isn't growing well, if he has unremitting symptoms, if he has other symptoms other than just crying, then you think about the milk allergy. And if he has no other symptom other than crying in the evenings, it's probably a colicky baby, and probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense to try it. Having said that, a couple of weeks on an extensively hydrolyzed formula isn't necessarily a bad thing. So I think the important thing here is like all medicine, it starts with a careful history and physical. You have to figure out, of course, how you can do it in 6 minutes. But that's, I think, what you have to do. Establish a differential diagnosis. See what fits. Is it a milk allergic baby? Is it a colicky baby? Or does it have one of these other more rare things that might be causing trouble? And figure that out and test appropriately. And then once you've established the diagnosis and you're convinced, you have to tell the parents, this is what it is. No equivocation. Because if they sense you don't know what's going on, the anxiety level is going to go right back up.